All right, so diving into some pretty significant stuff today. China becoming a world power. 49 to 2001. Huge topic, right?
Yeah, no kidding. It's a lot to unpack, but it's a wild ride. We're talking reshaping a nation and global politics in like what, 50 years?
52, to be exact. But yeah, wild is a good word for it. You've given me a ton of information, videos, articles, all sorts. So our mission today is to give everyone listening a clear picture of how did communist China actually become China? The superpower.
The China we know,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think a good place to start is right at that beginning. 1949, the communists win the Civil War, Mao Zedong, CCP, People's Republic, all that.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget the nationalists, though.
Yeah.
Chiang Kai-shek heading off to Taiwan,
Right.
right? And they both still say, nope, we're the real China.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about setting the stage for a complicated future. You've got the U.S. backing Taiwan. Soviets, at least at first, are with the mainland. I mean, this is Cold War Central right here.
Cold War chessboard.
Yeah.
So CCP's in charge, right? Their priority is consolidating power, getting rid of foreign influence as much as they can. Though Hong Kong and Macau are interesting exceptions. They stayed British and Portuguese for quite a while.
Right. It seems like maybe they were playing the long game there. Pragmatic, maybe. But internally, this is where the CCP's ideology of class struggle comes in big time. Us versus them, the people against the oppressors. Really effective for getting the rural population on board, especially after decades of, well, everything they'd been through.
Makes sense. So we've got land redistribution to farmers, big push for modernizing everything. They're looking at the Soviet Union's model, which leads to, well, the Great Leap Forward.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Trying to industrialize at warp speed, change agriculture completely with these people's communes. And this is where I think it's easy to see how good intentions can go so wrong.
Because of things like that Great Sparrow campaign. I mean, on paper, it sounds almost reasonable. Sparrows eating crops, get rid of the sparrows, more food for people.
Yeah, except nature's a little more complicated than that. They wiped out the sparrows, which, yeah, ate grain, but they also ate insects. So suddenly you've got insect populations exploding, even worse, crop failures, and then...
The famine.
Mm.
Millions dying. It's hard to even grasp the scale of that. A really tragic example of how these top-down, ideologically driven plans can backfire horrifically.
Tragic, absolutely. And I think it shows how crucial it is to have experts, scientists, people who understand these complex systems involved in planning. Otherwise, you're just, you're swinging blindly in the dark and hoping for the best.
So the Great Leap Forward is a disaster. You'd think they'd learn their lesson about, trying to force these massive changes.
Yeah.
But then comes the Cultural Revolution in '66.
Yeah, and this one's different. It's not just about economics anymore. It's about totally reshaping culture, politics, everything. Mao's worried about, I guess, the revolution losing its edge. So you get the Red Guards, this fervent youth movement, going after anyone seen as anti-revolutionary.
Destroying historical artifacts, intellectuals getting shipped off to farms for re-education. A decade of just chaos. How does a country even recover from that on top of the famine?
It's a tough question. The scars of the Cultural Revolution definitely run deep, even today. But amidst all this internal upheaval, there's a massive shift happening internationally. The early 70s see China starting to, well, cozy up to the U.S.
Which is wild considering they were backing opposite sides in Korea just a few years before. But hey, the enemy of my enemy, right? Plus, the U.S. is looking for a way out of Vietnam, and China's worried about the Soviet Union.
Realpolitik at its finest. Nixon goes to China in '72, which is just huge symbolically. And then, boom, 1971, People's Republic gets the UN Security Council seat, replacing Taiwan. That's a power move right there.
Definitely marks China's re-entry onto the world stage.
Yeah.
And then in '76, Mao dies. Enter Deng Xiaoping. He launches the four modernizations: agriculture, tech, industry, defense. Much more pragmatic, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's all about results, less about strict ideology. Like Deng famously said, it doesn't matter if a cat's black or white as long as it catches mice. And the economy starts to, well, take off. But politically, things stay pretty tight.
Tiananmen Square in '89 proves that. Students want reforms, and the CCP's response is, well, not what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
So you've got this weird mix, booming economy, but very little political freedom.
Yeah, that tension's still there today. But even without big political changes, the economic transformation keeps going. Hong Kong and Macau come back to China in the late 90s. And then in 2001, the big one, they join the World Trade Organization.
WTO entry, that's like the final stamp of approval, right? China's a major player economically and politically on the world stage. They did it their own way. Capitalist economy, communist government. Kind of a unique blend.
Totally unique. And I think that's what makes this period so fascinating. It's a story of immense ambition, sometimes brutal mistakes, incredible resilience, and ultimately a rise to power unlike anything we've seen in modern history.
It's a lot to think about, that's for sure. And I'd love to hear what everyone listening thinks about all this. What did we miss? What surprised you? Leave a comment. Let's keep the conversation going. And of course, if you found this deep dive helpful, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be back with more deep dives soon.